Welcome, everyone. We are so glad that you're joining us here today. I'm very excited to introduce our special guests today, in the plural, Kerry and Lynn Veitch. Kerry has been connected with Rebirthing Breathwork since 1993 and now teaches for two different international schools. She has a love and passion for warm water conscious breathing. Kerry believes that the process of rebirth should be a sacred ceremony that welcomes us into the world in a new way with the energy of the Divine Mother held in a space of love, trust, and acceptance. Wouldn't that be lovely? And as a breathwork and rebirthing practitioner who has been in practice for 4 decades, Lynn Veitch, Kerry's aunt, has integrated many of the healing arts she has always learned over the years into her work. Lynn believes that we are in the process of birthing our unique selves, and with the support of breath, sacred space, and the blessings of spirit, our responsibility is to recognize and honor each stage and bring new life to fruition. You can find them both at thesacredbreath.co.uk and focusedbreath.com. Lynn and Kerry, it's a really great pleasure to have you joining us today. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steph.
You know, I want to dive straight in with both of you because I think it's so unusual that we have this family lineage of breathwork practice, and incredibly important and significant, actually. So I'd love to hear how that's been for both of you. I'm guessing, Kerry, that you were influenced by your aunt's work at some point in life. Tell us about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I was 19, my parents shipped me off to the States. I was off the road, off the rails a little bit, and they sent me to spend some time with Lynn in Florida, where she's based. And I went to a few different sessions, bioenergetics, and one of them was a conscious connected breathwork session. And I had a really profound out-of-body experience. And that was kind of the start of my journey with conscious breath. And I was 19 at the time, and Lynn was there supporting me. And since then, we've worked together, on and off over the years. I've breathed with her, and that's where it began.
That's beautiful. I mean, Lynn, what was it like for you receiving this off-the-rails teenager into your care?
Oh, it was awesome. I was so excited because Kerry was so open to experiencing all the things that I loved. And to have that happen in the family was just such a gift. And she came over, and at that time I was leading some rebirthing groups. And Kerry came and joined that group. And like she said, she had that great experience, which she did not share with me for a while afterwards. But I felt like I had something to offer, to give back to the family and to pass on. And it was just really exciting. And at that time, I actually felt like she may come back to do more of this work, because she connected with it so easily.
I find that really exciting, that kind of place that you open the door, you don't push anybody through, but there's this intuitive knowing that, she may come back. Something has happened there now. So it must be really super lovely for both of you to be able to share this work now.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I sense from the way that you speak about this and you introducing Kerry to the breath work that this breath is something that's very important to you and holds this sacred space. Now, I know you have a practice of meditation that leads people into that sacred space within. So I think it would be so lovely today, given the nature of what we're talking about around birth and honoring and rebirthing, to bring that in right from the start. Lynn, would you like to lead us in this meditation into the sacred space within?
So let's begin by closing our eyes gently and drawing our attention inward. Breathe in through the nose and exhale through the mouth. Just letting go. In through the nose, exhale through the mouth. Inhale through the nose one more time, and exhale through the mouth. Continue to follow the flow of the breath. And we'll be following a conscious connected breath, or circular breath as it's sometimes called. Breathing in a continuous flow without pause. Inhale flows into the exhale. And the exhale flows back into the inhale. Gently in and out through the nose. The inhale flows into the exhale, and the exhale flows into the inhale. Without pause, inhaling, exhaling, conscious connected breath. And just notice if there's any holding in your body or your mind. And just take your awareness with the breath to that space without trying to make anything happen, but just awareness. Just being with yourself as you are. Allow the inhale to bring energy into the body. And then release on the exhale. Our breath is sacred. Our breath brings us life. Our breath sustains us. It takes us deep into the inner realms with consciousness and awareness. Breath connects us to Mother Earth as we walk on her and breathe, as we sit and feel her. The breath connects us to each other. Breathing in the grace of the breath. Exhaling gratitude for the breath. Breathing in this great gift of the breath. Exhaling gratitude for the breath. Feeling the body fill with the light, with the life force, with the love of the breath. And exhaling such gratitude for that. Gently bringing your awareness back. And feel how it feels now. Feel how your body feels now, how your mind feels, how your heart feels. And then gently open your eyes again.
Thank you so much, Lynn. I think the key word was actually used twice in your coming back there, the invitation, gently, bringing your awareness back, gently opening your eyes, because in an ideal world, the process of connecting to birth and being born would be gentle, but we all know it isn't always that. So I'd love to invite you to share a little, and let's start with you, Lynn, about the stages of birth and how the breath can honor those stages. Let's tell people a little more about that, because we may not all know.
I see us as continually going through the stages of birth on an unconscious level. And beginning with the womb, which is, of course, the first stage. We're not going into conception right now, but beginning with the womb. And the womb can be a safe place or maybe not such a comfortable place. And so we might want to stay in that place. If it's very comfortable, we might not want to leave. And that might show up in our life about not wanting to leave our comfort zone or staying in our comfort zone too long. And on the other hand, we might want to leave too soon. We might want to get out of there because it's not a comfortable place. Maybe there's something going on with the mother who we're always connected to in the womb. We're really connected to the mother's emotions, her feelings, everything she eats, everything she does. And she might be going through a really rough time. So we're feeling that and feeling, well, this is not such a great place to be. So one of the things we want to watch is not leaving things too soon, not trying to push forward and go with the rhythm of the birth. Then the second stage, of course, is going through the birth canal, which again it's got twofold there. When you go through the birth canal, you're being massaged, and it's quite a pleasant feeling. And your immune system is getting activated at the same time. However, it can get very claustrophobic if it takes too long. And that can also show up in later life. Then we've got the third stage, which is coming through the birth canal. And that is that life struggle. And how do we work with life struggle? Do we move through it easily, or is it a really tough thing? And of course, a lot depends on the dynamics of the birth itself. There's many other things that came into play, but these are the four basics. The fourth one, of course, is coming out into the world. Is coming out, and the first time we're separated, we're on our own, and oh my gosh, what's out here? Is it a welcoming, warm place, or am I feeling alienated, alone, and abandoned? Am I with someone I love? And so that can play up in our life. I had a client who, she was about to come out, and the doctor, she was on her way to the hospital, and the doctor decided that it wasn't time, pushed her back in. The birth could push her head back in. So the dynamic for her when she went through a breath session was, it's not safe out there. There's something wrong with me. I better not do this. And every time she went to move forward in her life, and especially in something big, she would feel this holding back. However, what the breath does is it creates movement, and it's a natural movement. And when we feel the energetics of those birth patterns, what happens is we can start to move through them and move through the feelings that have been held in there and the somatic tensions that have been held in there, which she did, and was able to really come up with some expressive, creative, beautiful work after feeling held back for so many years.
That's immensely powerful, really. It really is. And I mean, you said something in there that actually landed deeply for me on a personal level about that sense of the womb is not a comfortable or safe place to be that we can underestimate. But if the mother's nervous system is firing in fight flight all the time, for example, and those hormones are coming through, it makes a huge amount of sense of my pattern personally. Which, you know, when I hear you talk like that, I think so many people will never really relate things back to that birthing stage, the natal, prenatal, and postnatal stage.
Right, right. And I think that the thing is to recognize in our lives, especially if we're going through the breath process, to recognize where we are. And that's where the honoring comes in, to honor that stage and to know that we can move through it.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you, Lynn. Kerry, is there anything you'd like to add to that from your perspective?
Yeah, just that when we're doing this work as well, a lot of our utero up to 18 months is when our limbic system is online. You know, the kind of big cognitive part of the brain's offline, and so a lot of these patterns are deeply held in the body. They're imprints, somatic, pre-verbal. And so, as Lynn's describing her work with someone, and I'm noticing in my work in the water, the body just wants to move and kind of be in tune with these imprints and to work through them, as Lynn's saying. So it's a lot of the time when people come to share about their experiences, there are maybe not so many words because it was before that part of our brain was online.
Absolutely. And that's so fundamental in what we teach in breathwork, that we can't find words to describe pre-verbal experiences, which, as you know, and I'm sure you do, Lynn, and in my work, highlights the importance of embodied connection, like really coming into this body to find out what's in there. So I'd love to hear a little more, because you've given an example, Lynn, of one of your clients there, and I know you have many, Kerry, but what kind of breakthroughs, both personally and within your clients, have you borne witness to, and are they specific to rebirthing practices?
Oh, there are so many. So I guess I could tell you a little bit about the most profound one. So my birth was very traumatic. I was transverse and forceps delivery, and not in a great place when I came out. And something that I carried with me about this experience was my fear of people. And I was fine in my work persona or my mum persona, but when it came to really reaching out and connecting with people, I really struggled. I struggled to be able to feel them and feel what they were giving me because I was so protected and shut down. And I might have had, I don't know how many breathes around my birth, but two of them in particular, which are kind of connected, I'll share with you. And the first was when I experienced my first breath, but it was the painful, fearful breath. And I was hardly even connecting my breath. I knew something would happen. I was on retreat and I went straight into the womb. and I couldn't breathe. And when I took my breath, my chest hurt, my lungs hurt, my throat hurt, and I was petrified. And it set me back 5 months. I was scared to breathe for 5 months after that experience. That was in 2019. So fast forward to winter 2021. So last year, I had another breathe in water where my body actually just started moving with the forceps. It was twisting and twisting like this, just like a fish in water. I couldn't believe what was happening to me. And that evening, I asked for some cranial sacral work because I could feel tension in my neck and a headache. And as my good friend Simona was working with me, she said, "Oh, this feels like birth energy. Would you like me to work with your umbilical cord?" And I was like, she's a cranial sacral therapist. And I was like, oh, okay. That sounds a bit weird, but okay. And she moved down my body and put one hand under me and one on top of where the umbilical cord would be attached. And a few minutes after her doing this, I felt my whole body pulsing. My whole body was pulsing, every part of me. And I said, oh, my body's pulsing. I don't know what's happening. And she said, to me, it feels like a heartbeat. And then she started to hold my umbilical cord in her hands and move them. And I could feel this a few inches from my body. I could feel the connection underneath my skin of where the umbilical cord would be attached to in the placenta. And she then said to me, would you like to cut your own cord? And I can feel it as I'm sharing this with you. I was like, okay, sure, whatever this means. And I brought my fingers like this above my belly button, and I went like this. I cut the cord, and I felt it dissolving into my belly. And in that moment, I stopped breathing. And then I took my first breath. And it was gentle, it was peaceful, and it was my choice when I got to breathe. So that's one of the stories, but I think it's most relevant for what we're sharing today about birth being a sacred ceremony that is our right.
So I can really hear how incredibly powerful that reclamation for you was of your first breath, deeply moved, and seeing you being moved by the telling of the story. I honestly wish more people had the opportunity to experience that, but I'm sure they will have, because your work is starting to move in that direction, which is very exciting. And Lynn, how about you? What kind of things have you witnessed?
Well, I think one of my big breakthroughs, it doesn't appear to be related to birth, but I think everything goes back to there anyway, goes back to those early stages. But I was feeling very, I given a talk or a workshop, and I was feeling very inadequate and not enough, and just really down on myself. And so I asked someone to help me and go through a breathing session, which I did. And I got more and more into myself, more and more into my body, into my own energy. And by the end of the session, I had this feeling of, oh, I am enough. I am great. I'm wonderful. And I was just having this elated feeling, and it felt real to me. And after the session, I was contemplating it, and it was like, what happened there? What happened for me that shifted? All I did was breathe and connect with inside and breathe. And what I realized was I was letting go, and what I had been doing in this particular workshop, I was trying too hard. So in the breath work, what was happening was the energy was flowing through me, not from me. And there's a big difference in that. If it's coming from me, it's like an effort. It's like something I'm doing. If it's coming through me, it's more like I'm walking into life rather than trying to make life happen. And I really felt the difference of that. So this is a breakthrough that's a continuing breakthrough because it's become a practice, an ongoing practice, because these patterns, once they shift and there's that connection made in the brain, we have to nurture them. We have to integrate them. We have to assimilate them and integrate them and not ride on just the experience, but allow that to take place in our lives and keep remembering what we've experienced, but keep living from that place. So that was a very big breakthrough for me and such a relief, because trying was actually one of my womb experiences. I kept thinking, I have to try. That came up for me in one of my womb experiences in the breath work. So it really did go back to birth again.
It really is quite miraculous when you hear it laid out like this, that I'm sure many people listening might be slightly skeptical at first. They say, oh, well, that was all back then, and how can that still be having an impact? And from having experienced it myself this summer, I was absolutely and utterly blown away by the potency of what you just talked about, the breath moving through you. There are levels of inner knowing that come from the experience of something that still can't even be particularly described, but they're felt, and that's certainly what I experienced in your session, Kerry. Thank you both for those beautiful explanations. Birth is something that is very much obviously coming through the feminine, the mother. Takes two people to create the situation where birth arises, but I have this sense personally that feminine energy is coming to the forefront at the moment in the world. And I think that's something that you both point to. So would you like to say more about that?
I would agree with you, wholeheartedly, Steph. And I'm really noticing that this year, particularly in my work, that we'll go on to talk about. But the creative force, the creative energy that's in the birthing energy is, from what I can tell, is, I don't know, it feels like it feels a bit like, I said this to Lynn the other day, it feels like Kali and Durga energy is coming through. That kind of warrior, like, we want change, and we're not putting up with this anymore. And but also that kind of mother of all beings, that balance, that protectiveness, and all of that feels like it's coming through. And I hear many people speaking about their work and noticing that feminine energy, wanting space, wanting to be seen and heard, and also, most importantly, a calling for rebalancing, on a planetary level. I think that that's why it's coming through in so many people's work, is because we have to call back into balance the masculine and feminine for the future of all of us.
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to come to you in a moment, Lynn. I feel that this point that you raise about balance is actually happening on so many levels, within race, within class, within culture, within gender, that people are starting to undo all of the illusions and the stories and the messages that we have picked up post-birth. So when we go right back to this place, I'm not surprised, and I'm personally heartened to hear that's coming through. Lynn, what kind of importance does that have for you in your work and in your life?
Yeah, well, just writing up what you were saying, I think nothing can be hidden anymore. Everything is coming to the surface. It's like it's right here for us to see and to work with. But, I've seen over the centuries, women have fought for everything. They fought for the vote, they fought for work, they fought for pay rights, they fought for property, just so many things. And thank you to all of them for what they've given us. What I'm seeing now is that there is this Kali Durga energy, and it's different. It's more assertive. It's not coming from a place of demanding, and it's not coming from a place of weakness. Not to say that all those women were in any way weak, but it's coming from a place of assertiveness, of setting boundaries. And most of all, what I see is women are finding their voices, and they're being heard, and they're in positions where they can be heard, and they're being heard loudly. And I also see this happening for men, in the sense of the men that I've come across in the breath work. They're developing a more intuitive sense of themselves, a more compassionate place, a more community-oriented sense. So, like Kerry was saying, the balance for all of us, for men and women, is really important. We really can't do it without each other, without that coming together. But I love what's happening right now on the planet. Yeah.
I can see your excitement. Yeah, I call this unity consciousness. And so I really would like to just drop in there and ask a question, because I know people talk about rebirthing, and Kerry, your work has a focus on what you're describing as warm water rebirthing. Are the two the same? Is rebirthing breath? This is probably a beginner's question, but if I've got it, I'm sure many will have it who are listening to this talk today, watching this talk. Is there a difference between rebirthing practice and warm water rebirthing?
It's the same energy. I'm kind of understanding more recently that rebirthing, from its origins with Leonard Orr, and through his work and his experiences and his spiritual connection and spirituality, I'm feeling that it's that lineage, it's that energy that's coming through the work, whether it's in water or on land, with the connected breath. So it's the same energy.
Thank you for explaining that. I know for me, being in the water and the experience I had with you recently seemed to somehow make the experience even more profound, because it was literally like a reenactment of being in the womb, and things came up that I just didn't expect to witness. So I would really like to know more about your work, because I know you plan to continue to develop warm water rebirthing, which is super exciting. Is that something that you're going to be doing together, or is that just a piece of your work, Kerry?
Well, I can tell you a little bit about why I'm moving more into the water. Lynn and I have got a few things brewing and bubbling and talking about. We can share that later. But interesting, Lynn said about finding your voice, because this year, the end of last year, I was like, I need to find my voice. I have a kind of this thing in the background, which we all have, different ones, but mine is, oh, I'm stupid, I won't know what to say, all this kind of stuff. And so end of last year, is like, I need to find my voice. How am I going to do that? And one of the most prominent experiences that have happened to me this year, of which there's been many, but that's more relevant for this, is I went to Glen Lyon in Scotland as part of an earthkeeping weekend. And we did a tobacco ceremony. And in that ceremony, I called in about, I wanted to find my voice. And as I breathed into that, the noise of the stream nearby got louder and louder and louder until it spoke to me. And it said, the water, she said to me, you can find your voice in the water. You just need to listen and be still. And I am there to support you. And your words will flow through. And from that moment, I have had so many beautiful encounters and developing my own relationship with water. It's like I'm being called to do this work. And I know you know what that means, Steph.
I listen to you. Honestly, people can't see. I've got goosebumps all up my arm when you spoke about how the water spoke to you, because again, there are people who are perhaps very rooted in the tangible, the palpable, the known, who might go, what do you mean the water spoke to you? And I think it's no different to when we contemplate spirit speaking to us, what we might call insights or intuition that you pointed to, Lynn, that men are coming more in tune with. And it's very easy to dismiss those things, and yet they carry powerful messages when we're just open to listen. So thank you for sharing that story. And I'm super grateful that you're finding your voice with that work, because as I've said many times throughout this interview, even I think it's really, really, really important work. Lynn, is there anything you'd like to add to what Kerry's been sharing there?
I agree that the water rebirthing is very powerful work, and I think what you're doing right now, Kerry, is important. It's really good work. I've done water birthing. Was usually in a hot tub or sometimes a bathtub, but even in those small areas, what would happen would be people would have breakthroughs because they're in that womb experience again where they're surrounded by the water, and that it brings up things that you can actually relive on that somatic level. The body, as we were talking about earlier, the body starts to move and starts to unwind all by itself. So yeah, even if there's a small space somewhere that you can have a water rebirthing, the bigger space is good, but the small space still, that water is such a conduit. Yeah.
Thank you, Lynn. Of course, that's what we come from, so it's natural that it would have a resonant frequency for us. We spent 9 months in there. Now, you're both in 2 different countries, so I know you have plans to work together because you've mentioned it a couple of times. How will that happen? How is it going to look? What sort of exciting things can you tell us about?
One of the things that's in the works is the rebirth of the feminine. And that will probably mostly be online. But who knows? When we come together, we can get to each other's countries. And who knows where it might be a culmination of that in person, or maybe a continuation in person. But that's in the works for both of us together. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been feeling for a long time that we're gonna. I mean, Lynn and I've worked a few times together before, and it works really well. There's a consciousness and intuition there that really just creates a really safe space. And so we'll be doing more together for sure. I think having a look on the website and maybe signing up to our mailing list if you want to hear more about that.
Yeah, really the simplest way to find out, in fact, what you're doing. So is there anything, given what we've talked about today, that's just been a taster for people of this really enormous area, actually, of our life experience and of what continues to move through us, that you'd like to leave people with as a little piece of something that you think is particularly significant or important?
For me, that would be if you find yourself noticing that you have these patterns that happen in life. So, a lot of us have one-off experiences on things, but if things keep coming back and you're like, wait a minute, maybe you should explore your birth pattern and your journey into this world.
For me, it would be letting go. That letting go of anything that we're holding on to, anything that's restricting us, and allowing ourselves to move on into the next stage, whatever that is. And we don't have to judge ourselves where we are. We just have to acknowledge it. And that's really the main thing. Just acknowledge it and feel it. And then know that there's something much bigger at work that can let the movement happen for us if we just surrender to that, if we just let go into that.
Beautiful. Thank you both so much. I feel that there's a lot of richness and depth in this, and I'm excited to hear that you'll be working or continuing to work together and increasing the frequency that you might do that. I find it super interesting, Kerry, that you talk about this kind of alignment and intuitive knowing that you have of each other. And I'm very curious about how much of that is attached to those family lineages that we've talked about, because birth comes through ancestry. And so there's bound to be a connection somewhere. So I really want to thank you both for bringing this important topic to the Shift Network today. What a great session with you both, Kerry and Lynn Veitch. And thank you, if you are listening, for being a part of this session today. Do reach out to Kerry and Lynn if you have any questions. Go check out their bios and you can find out more about them there. Thank you both so much.
Thank you, Steph. Thank you.